Okay,
Hello world.
what a week.
Um, what a week. I'm gonna sound this is normally a rankings where I would like come in screaming, yelling, throwing up. I'm very tired and low energy right now. So it's gonna feel a little more subdued, but know that mentally, holy shit balls.
But also, I'm just like
Um,
glad something finally happened, to be real.
stop really glad that something finally happened and also seems to be continuing through the rest of the season where it's like, okay, now we finally have a game to talk about. And I'm finally excited to discuss players and odds. And I'm much more excited by the prospects of some of these people winning a season. Um,
Thank you for your service, Ryan.
like, thank you for your service. This honestly, like, this game is, or this season, when looked back upon, is going to be looked at in two chapters, and it is going to be the pre-week eight game and the post-week eight game. Because Ryan literally, for not for no reason, like we saw this kind of bubbling from honestly the very, very first few days. Um, but really decided to nuke the whole thing. We've been talking for a while. We said on previous rankings that like, oh, like I really hope that Ryan is Bryce's ender. This is not what I had in mind when I was thinking that this was going to happen. Instead of like a methodically thought out plan of like we're gonna snipe him and keep out, he literally decided just because, just literally just cause, to put up his entire alliance and side with the full other side of the house just because he was like
Bored.
bored and he knew he'd eventually have to take the shot. So why not now? There's no time like the present. And practicing confrontation and like for sure. But it honestly has felt like we used a Game of Thrones analogy last week where Ryan certainly had his Daenerys moment where he just like went off the deep end this week. But honestly, kind of in a very Game of Thrones way, it's like, okay, we still have half the series left, and all of a sudden, the main character is just gone.
Yeah,
And now we are seeing how
that's
everybody
true.
else is immediately shining 10 times brighter because I think they have the room to and are no like Bryce was a huge presence on the season, literally controlled
Who is
this
Bryce?
whole first half of the game.
Is Bryce
Bryce
like
is
Rob Stark?
Rob Stark. He's Cat Stark. He's Ennius.
His cat Stark.
Spoilers. Spoilers.
That's crazy. Game of Thrones
Sorry,
spoilers.
Cade. He's already passed there. He's already passed there, and we won't say more. Um, but yeah, the him leaving just leaves this huge void, and I'm already that much more excited to talk about so many of these players.
But to be clear, like Rob Stark will be missed.
Oh yeah, very much will be missed. But I am although I am saddened to see Bryce go, Bryce, I thank you for your sacrifice because I fear your exit was the catalyst that we needed to actually get this game moving.
But we need to talk
Um,
about that next week.
I will, yeah, we'll talk about the finer details of that heading in the next week. I'll certainly clock Bryce on a few things that I was not pleased with this week, but that's all in due time when we get to him here. Um, Team Scott all of a sudden not looking as hot. I feel like this usually happens where it's like you lose everyone in the beginning, and then slowly, one at a time, I lose all my team, and then all of a sudden in the finale, we are each left with one person, and typically I win. Currently, I am not loving my odds. I mean, then again, after this week, I think Ryan is going to have a very tough time, and so will Justin. Um,
Oh.
and Adrian was certainly not in the mix at all. Then again, look at my team, and there's only a few people that I'm like, I don't know. I think it's much more even now. So,
Oh, show. Let's kick it off.
shall we?
That's what I
Yeah,
would
shall
say.
we
I
dive
could
in?
change the slide right now, but start talking about Adrian and I'll change it in a second.
Um, yeah. For me this week, Adrian. Um, I'm at a crossroads with Adrian because again, in theory, he's one where it's like Bryce going home should be great for him. Yet we're sitting here in a position where the game is reforming and it is reforming around Adrian. And he found out about, like, never in a world when Bryce is going home should Adrian have, like, not been in on it happening. And he, like, simply wasn't. He was told it was happening. And then he was like, okay. Um, and then he heard some other things were happening and he's like, ooh, these other things are happening. And, like, that's, like, all he cares to share about his thoughts. And I'm literally just so confused. Um, I truly, I don't see a. I think he's the one person right now, and I always hate saying this because I always hate to count people out, but like he's the one person in this game that I think loses to every single other person here.
Mhm.
I can't think of what allies he has that would be riding for him in a jury. I can't think of what people in the game are like, you know what, Adrian's impressive. And his story is not even unique. Like if you compare him to Trista, who has also like not done a ton, Trista at least has been bold with her opinions, has been on the block far more, has won more competition. Like has Trista has done what Adrian's done, but just like better. Um, so I think for that reason, I can't raise my score. He's still on the outs. I don't see him winning, and until I see him literally shake a limb and do anything actively himself without people coming to him and using him, it's gonna stay a three for me. So that's what I'm giving him.
I'm going to say my two for the same reasons. I also agree that I don't think that he has any shot to win right now. I just like, I don't know if he doesn't know if he's in a bad, but like not a strong position, or he is just like apathetic to it, but he's
I
not
don't
really
think it's
trying to not be in this position that he's in. So,
I don't think it's apathy. I do think it's he doesn't realize. And he doesn't realize because, I mean, he's only been up on the block twice, one of which was being put up by Kayla, one of which was being put up by Bryce, both of whom are now out of the game. Although people have thought about putting him up every single week since like week one, only happened twice. Those two HOHs are gone. And I think he's sitting there thinking that he's got fine relationships with these people and that he's doing a fine job. But newsflash, Adrian, false. Sorry, baby, I'm sorry. Like, no. Oh my God, I hate to dog on him, but
no, because
I
he is
just like
genuinely
it's,
really nice.
I know, but it's
And
just like,
I would say if
Adrian.
he wasn't, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, no, if he wasn't, and I had no plans on like keeping in touch with and running on Adrian, like I would just really go in and go harder, as we've done with some people in the past. Um, but it is just like, oh, Adrian, I need you to wake up and smell the roses, but I just don't. Even if he does, where does he go? What does he do?
I don't know. Let's keep pushing. Andrew.
Andrew. Okay. Um, when I said I was, we're really front loading the people that I'm not gonna have many nice things to say about. And there's another one. I have more nice things to say about Andrew than I do about Adrian right now. Um, in terms of their game. To be clear, where Andrew is a little more on the in, specifically because he has Jen and he does know how to navigate, I think, a little bit. Um, he does have Jen who is really riding for him. He does have Ryan now, who I think like sees him as a target to keep around and honestly an ally for him moving forwards. Trista and him have always had a good relationship. Like he does have a few more numbers, and Bryce going home for him this week was huge, and he was a little more in on it as he was talking with Jen about it before it happened. Um, so all to say there was a little more upside to Andrew here, but the game is still very much lacking for me, in my opinion. So I'm certainly staying in the red. I think is a huge threat that most people would be fine to take out. Um, so I'm gonna go up to a 4 for him. Um, just because I do think these sides have definitely evened out. However, when I look at his side of the house, who right now I consider to be Jen, Ryan,
Surely.
Trista, Zoe by proxy, I would put him on the most likely to be nominated list. So it's just a matter of if his side wins HOH. So it's going to be a 4 from me.
I'll be at a 4 as well. The thing about Andrew that's different from Adrian, which I feel like we've said so many times, I actually do see Andrew putting in a lot of work to like try and figure out where he is at in the game and to like better that. I just think, I mean, he said that like ever since he's gotten put up, like he feels like he's been on this like outs, I feel like. I don't know if he can find his way to claw his way back into a spot where if his side doesn't win, he won't be nominated. Like I don't know if he can like further push himself inside to of his side. I do think that if he stays around, it's going to be because he has to be like really scrappy. And unfortunately, just like with the way the game is going, I do think he's going to be in trouble in the future. So it's going to be a 4 for me as well. Bryce,
Bryce, wow. What a what an exit, what a downfall, what a crazy turn of events. Um, to Bryce, I do think this feels like he just got blipped out. And don't get me wrong, although like I was expecting to see a little more methodical planning from Ryan to eventually make this move, he literally just won HOH and was like, okay, so I guess we'll do this now. Which like don't get me wrong, definitely felt crazy. And we'll talk about Ryan's decision making behind all that and how I feel about that shortly. With that said, we've been talking for weeks now how Bryce is the number one target that everyone is talking about. This was gonna happen sooner or later. Um, the fact that it happened and he was up next to all of his allies is not what I was expecting. I was expecting Bryce to be up on the block next to, say, an Adrian or a Trista and maybe have a chance to flip things. But unfortunately, he was up next to his close allies because he was put up by a close ally and knew exactly who the close allies were. So that definitely wasn't great. Um, I mean, of course, I'm certainly lowering my score a lot. I won't lie. I, for a moment, really was considering a 1. I know he did get blipped out, but no shade, Bryce. And this is where I personally was not a fan of what I saw. I thought the way in which Bryce reacted to taking it was not great. That we should tell Ryan to quit because he's so stupid, that he's just not even going to campaign, that he's walking into the jury being like, I will never vote for Zoe or Ryan or the people that didn't save me. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, Bryce, did you not just backdoor Jen and specifically flaunted in your alliance that you weren't going to give her any kind of heads up? Did you not just vote out Kayla after not giving her any kind of heads up? Where I'm like, what do you? I would have liked for Bryce a little bit more. And don't get me wrong, it sucks and it feels like a major blindside, but a little bit more to be like, wow, I had a wrong read. And the people like, wow, the people that I thought were loyal to me were not. Just like how people thought I was loyal to them and I was not. And instead, it was a little bit like, this is ridiculous. This is unfair. And I'm glad that Kayla, like, Bryce was going in and like going off in the jury chat, which, like, absolutely that. And Kayla was like, oh my God, I totally feel for you. This is crazy. Do you just want to mention that you just kind of like did this to me last week? Just putting that out there for a moment, but continue to feel your feelings. And I was like, thank you, Kayla. I'm glad like someone is saying it. So that's the only thing where I am willing to like dock Bryce a little bit. With that said, the fact that he was able to get anyone, especially Isaiah of all people, to even try and flip the vote to keep him, and had some people like talking and considering it, plus the fact that he has played a great game all season and this was like a snipe. I will not be giving Bryce a 1 to be clear, and I do not think that he deserves a 1. So I will be giving Bryce a two, but it certainly won't be a three. There really was no way for him to stay this week, and plus his reaction to it all. Although I understand it, definitely it's like hot meat kettle. So it's gonna be a two for me.
I'm gonna be at a two as well. I do agree with you on a lot of things that you said. There are a few things I disagree on. I think the relationship that Bryce had with Jen was different, at least according to what I saw, than the relationship that Bryce had with Zoe and Ryan. I do feel for him, I think, a little bit more because I feel like he was really a victim of like someone just wanting to do something, which is like a little unfortunate. I think I mean, he's been with Ryan and Zoe since the beginning of the game, and I do think him taking a shot at Jen like made sense. Whereas like I understand his frustration because I don't really think this made sense for like the betterment of Ryan and Zoe's game. I was honestly considering a three, but I am gonna stay at a two because well, I was considering a three because I do think his campaign was pretty impressive. There was a moment where I was like a little convinced that he was going to be able to have the votes, which would have been insane. But at the end of the day, like I think things flipped back pretty quickly. From even like being a thought in people's minds. It does suck. Like I actually do feel really bad for him, but he also knows that he was like the player of the season, and this was going to happen at some point. I feel bad that it happened like right now because I don't think it deserved to happen to him right now
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely
by
agree with you
Ryan.
that this does feel a little more random. I guess random isn't the word that I would use for it. We have seen Ryan be sketch of Bryce from the very beginning. The
Hmm.
only reason it feels random to me is because like after Kellen went home, it did feel like okay, like we're gonna have to lock back in here. And
Hmm.
it feels a little more random because at least for the short term, while Ryan is very well set up in the middle, there were a like two key people that he honestly had primed up on a silver platter to be like good noms that would have set him up even further. Um, so while like I don't love the move of taking out Bryce for him. It has certainly changed the status of his game, and we'll see how it works out. Um, and while I agree Bryce taking a shot at Jen was smarter than Ryan taking a shot at Bryce right now, to me it does feel the same of like I'm putting myself in their shoes. And although we knew from the outside in that like Bryce really wasn't loyal to Frogs and Jen in that side, and that Ryan was, but was just kind of like sketch of this player. If I'm putting myself in their shoes, I'm like, Jen really thought that Bryce was with her
Hmm.
up until that final moment. It's kind of the same thing here. Um, so I don't know. I'll be curious to see where this goes for Ryan. Obviously, we'll talk about Ryan when we get to Ryan. But
They just had been together from the beginning, where like I don't feel like he and Jen, especially like I think the Kellen vote was a deciding, not deciding, but a very
yeah,
big
like a
point
very
in the game.
separating factor. Yeah.
So whatever. But okay, Isaiah,
I,
Saya.
yeah, literally. This is, Isaiah, I have some like crazy choice words for you. I am actually baffled by the moves that Isaiah made this week. Isaiah has spent most of the game on the outs because of how he expressed wanting to keep Muhammad and Helene and things like that. He saw that, amazing. He was like, okay, the person that I need to get on the in with is Bryce because Bryce is clearly controlling everyone, and I need to get in with Bryce. and make him think that I'm good with him so that him and his old people don't come after me. But then as soon as I get the chance to, he's the head of the snake that needs to be cut off. And now here we are this week, and I'm thinking that Bryce going up is going to be like sound the trumpets for Isaiah. Both of my close allies, Justin and Rachel, now get to stay. But instead, Isaiah's reaction was Justin and Rachel are doing nothing for me, and I want to keep Bryce around and will actively push to make this happen. And I'm so confused, especially not even when it comes to Rachel, specifically when it comes to Isaiah turning on Justin, who Justin is not doing anything for you. King, Justin is the reason that you're still here and that Alliance didn't target you sooner. Bryce was actively pushing to get you put up on the block all week. Like, just the logic there. I'm like Isaiah gaslit himself so much to the point where I think Bryce actually like was one of his number ones. And I'm like, Isaiah, you let Bryce do the thing to you that you saw that Bryce is doing it to everyone else. So I'm like, I just thought that was crazy. Moving into next week as well, I think that there are some people that are like Zoe and even Rachel are people that are really on the in on both sides. Isaiah is another player that is playing the middle, but he is on the outs of both sides. So just because you're playing the middle does not mean that you have the same kind of like standing as the other people in the middle. And I think Isaiah really suffered this week. Um, I'm looking at this board. I do think that people like Justin and Rachel will need him more. So like there's that. But everyone else, like Ryan would easily vote him out. Jen certainly would. Andrew certainly would. Adrian doesn't trust Isaiah. Trista's had a rocky relationship. Um, like I don't know where this move stemmed from. And the people that he actively needs in the game are the people that he just tried to vote out because he thinks he doesn't need them. I'm going to a three, Isaiah. This was ridiculous.
Sorry. Um, yeah, I just don't really understand like what his game plan is here. Like who he is trying to work with and who he is like riding with. Because I agree with you. You would think it would be Justin and Rachel, and he almost tried to flip the vote on them this week to keep Bryce, which I don't know why. I agree with you. Um, I guess it'd be at a three as well. Like I don't even know. I don't know what any of these people are doing this season. I honestly don't know what's going on. There's something in the vents of the group chat, I think. What would you classify his odds of getting to the end and then also his odds of winning?
I personally right now put Isaiah as second lowest next to Adrian in terms of odds of winning. I think Isaiah, no shade, Isaiah, I love you to death. I think his actual game decisions have been a fucking mess, like the whole time, just a mess. Um, and whereas I do think that there are maybe some other quieter players like Rachel who maybe at the surface level aren't as respected, but I do think will be able to like stand on her game. I don't know what game Isaiah has to stand on other than like I was on the outs and I'm still here, which don't get me wrong is impressive. There's a lot of game left to play as well. But I'm like, he just has kind of been like doing shit the whole game. And it's not doing shit for the sake of doing shit. It's doing shit that he thinks is smart, but I really think it's like actively detrimented him at every turn.
Yeah. Let's move on to Jen.
Yeah. I
I will say it again.
am obsessed
Jen
with
is my
Jen's
current
story
winner
arc
pick.
this season. Jen is, I don't hate that. I don't hate that idea. I don't think that is the most unlikely
And you know
scenario. I
what?
think,
When she returns for BPSS 20, and nobody was expecting it until now.
she, Jen, I don't have enough good things to say about Jen this week. She really went on the Kayla's Karma tour and locked it in. She did luck out a little bit that Ryan won HOH here and was willing to do this. But even at the beginning of the week, Ryan was like, okay, like I think I'm going to put up Isaiah and Andrew with Andrew as the target. But let's keep in mind, like if that veto's used, like this could be the week. So like let's just like think about it. And Jen really kind of came in there and was like, Ryan, I don't know what you're thinking. Obviously, like I almost went home. Now I just have my number one going home. I really like you. I liked you this whole time. And I think it's time for a move to be made. I was talking with Kayla. Justin and Rachel are definitely close. They both met Kayla in real life. They definitely have these connections. Bryce is a huge player. And I think this is really what set Ryan to be like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I think Ryan had the thought in his brain the whole time. Jen was the one that sent him to the chaos version of that thought. You know what I mean? Then when it happened, she has immediately capitalized on the situation more than anyone else. This trio with her and Zoe and Ryan, I think is awesome for her. She is by far the closest person with Andrew in the game. She's Adrian's number one, apparently. So that's great for her. Um, and when I look at the other side of the house, being Justin, Rachel, Isaiah, I guess, I think all three of them have other people that they have to put up. I think they all put up Ryan and Andrew. And then maybe she's a replacement. In all honesty, it's probably more likely Adrian for all three of them. Um, and all of a sudden, she is back on the in, making very smart strategic decisions, has great reads. I'm like, I'm devastated that Kayla left, but if this is what it took for Jen to spread her wings and fly, then Kayla, your sacrifice was worth it. I will be raising my score for Jen. This week, I considered going higher. I'm going to tentatively move to a six because I do think she is a huge target moving forward. And to be honest, with this major reset of the game, like anything could happen. I'm really not going to have many people higher than a six. Um, but for Jen, I will happily be at one of my green scores for the week.
Ryan came home. I have to move higher.
Mm.
Um, okay. I am also going to a six. I feel very strongly about that. I think, I mean, if for nothing else, she successfully just got out the person that tried to backdoor and send her home like 2 weeks ago. I think she's doing a great job at recovering from that moment a few weeks ago. I think she could really find her way into this side of the house and ride something out to the end. I honestly feel very good about her. Um, I also just love an underdog story, like for real. Like she started like middle to top. I mean, we can probably see it on our graph here. She started like middle to top, had this huge dip. Yeah, she's like up here. She's this orange line. And I would love that for her if she can recover from that. So, and she's on Team Scott, so you know I really mean it when I say that. So,
She's just very exciting to
Justin, oh,
watch. I'm so excited to see where she goes in the game. I don't want to get too much into it either, but it's like because this is somewhat talking about some stuff that has happened next week. But the thing that I think I'm most excited about with Jen also
hmm.
is like there is something that happens to you in this game where she knows she was about to be voted out.
Wait. Can I make an analogy? Jen is
Wait, can I
Jon
just finish this
Snow.
thought?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
She was killed. Oh, okay. This is like huge spoilers here for Game of Thrones. She was killed, basically. Saw death, came back. She now sees Daenerys and who could Zoe be? I don't even know. Um,
knows what has to be done.
and knows
Yeah.
that it's gonna. She doesn't. She's still figuring it out, but she knows that eventually that's what has to be done. And in the
Yeah.
season finale, she's gonna do it. She's gonna stab Ryan, and
Um,
something will happen, and she'll win.
yeah.
Jen
Oh, I love
Snow.
it.
Jen
Um,
Snow.
what I was gonna say, I think there is something that happens to you in this game where she knows she was gonna be voted out unanimously, other than Kayla's vote. There's something that happens when you know that you owe these people nothing.
Like the people that stabbed Jon Snow.
For sure. And I think we are seeing with Jen that she's like making these connections, but like, whereas I think she was once very ride or die, would never have cut Andrew or Kayla or Bryce. Like, those are her people. Her new people, she's willing to do whatever. And I'm excited by that.
Yeah, let's move on. Justin, we gotta get
Yeah.
enough time for this veto too.
Justin, ooh, definitely a dip this week. Bryce going home isn't is not great for him, but I don't think it's detrimental for him in the sense that he was very publicly being tied to Bryce. And I think with that came two things. One, a huge target on his back, and two, I think he was the player that like looked weaker than Bryce. Um, and I don't necessarily mean that if I think Justin's playing a worse game. If anything, his scores have been consistently higher than Bryce. But I mean like perception is kind of reality, and like Bryce was controlling everything. So I think Bryce going home this early is actually not horrible for Justin, especially when Justin does have the legs to stand on of certainly Rachel. He thinks Zoe. Um, Moving forward, I kind of see him in a similar position as I do Andrew, but a little bit better. Like we now see these two sides that have formed. I think that of Justin's side, he is the biggest threat that is the least connected on the whole of the house. Um, And for that reason, I don't love his odds. For the same reason I don't love Andrew's odds. I do think that Justin has the slight leg up in terms of having some really core numbers ride or dying for him versus Andrew really only has Jen. Um, so I'm like, I'm certainly lowering my score, but do I go down to a five or do I go down to a four? And for me, because he lost to Bryce, which really was his number one person to bounce things off of, I could certainly see a world where I could raise my score if the pendulum swings back the other way um very easily. But I think for this week, I do have to go down to a four. I mean, he was nominated. He was going home if the nominations didn't change. And I do still think he is a massive target moving forward. So it is going to go down to a four for me.
Yeah, I honestly think that four is even a little generous, but I'll be at a four as well. Um, he was gonna go home this week. If there was a crazy flip, he was the final nominee. Um, I do agree that Bryce leaving will be good for him in terms of this duo powerhouse-ness now not being a thing. Just to play devil's advocate, I think losing Bryce as a trusted ally is equally not as good for him. Um, so it's really not great. Um, the good news is now he has all the reason in the world to go after Ryan. So um, I'm gonna be at a four, and I think that's very deserved for this week that he had. Okay, Rachel.
Okay. I have a feeling you are going to disagree with me here, and that is actually fine because I don't think you're wrong in your disagreement either. But for me, like currently, Rachel is, and when I say this, I actually mean it. I don't mean it in the way that I mean it when I say it for Krista. Rachel is actually in like my top three winner contenders that I would actually like to see win the game. She, no shade, Rachel, plays a very boring game that I wouldn't call exciting to watch per se. Love you.
Famously the definition of boring.
But she plays a great game of social positioning she really does know the layout of this house, and she is the person that really is playing the middle without anybody clocking her. I think Zoe is more outwardly playing the middle, but is much more easily able to be clocked. Um, and Rachel's whole game has really thrived upon like just staying calm. I'm not a threat. I'm just keeping up some good individual bonds. I know who my people are. I know who my people aren't. And we're going to keep it moving. I honestly don't see Rachel ever doing anything flashy in this game. But for Rachel, I don't hate that. I think she needs to probably do something when it comes to like Final Four, Final Three, and like make that move then. But like I really do see how she is a player that gets to the end of these games constantly and has a case to stand on. With this cast of players, I would be curious to see how her case fares in the end. Um, but I certainly don't hate her odds. And when she is here and is playing, I really enjoy seeing how her mind works and the moves that she makes and things like that. She is going to be one of my higher scores for this week, but as you can see with this trend of scores, the scores aren't going to be very high for the week. And on the whole, she was on the block this week. She did not do well on the veto. Um, and while I never saw a world where Rachel was going to be the one to leave this week, that is certainly not great. And at the same time, Bryce going home for her is not good. Bryce is probably one of the people that was more loyal to Rachel in the long term. Um, so I will be lowering my score for Rachel, but I'm only going to go to a five. I think Justin is a much bigger target that is in a far worse position. And I do think that Rachel moving forward does have very much the ability to swing back up because her social positioning is so good and no one sees her as a threat. I really don't think anyone's talking about how Rachel is a threat, and that is honestly her biggest advantage because I do think that Rachel is someone that warrants being a threat. So it'll be a five for me for this week and looking forward from there.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think I disagree with you on the fact that is she in my top three? Mm, probably not, but maybe close. I do agree that she is in a good spot and she is playing the middle. I'm definitely agreeing with all that. I think what's really going to be determining if Rachel wins this game is the way the perception of her shapes out for the rest of the season. Because I do think there are people that are starting to see that, like you were talking about a little bit. It's just not going to have to come too early where she becomes a target for it. And then it's not going to have to come too late where nobody ever thinks that she was a threat at all. Um, I think Rachel has heavy influence on when her perception shapes out as well. I think a five is justified. She was on the block against her closest ally, and then Bryce went home. So I'll be at a five as well.
Yeah, I think you make a really interesting point of like she needs to walk that line of like not being seen as a threat and then turn into seeing as a threat because you need to be seen as a threat and the viable winner by the end. For right now, I think the fact that she has gone up on Kayla's HOH and now Ryan's HOH, two times going up kind of randomly on both cases, less so on Kayla's week. Um, but both times in a position where she was never really in any danger of going home due to her connections, mind you, and is able to float back under the radar of like, look, I'm being put up. Clearly, I'm not doing that well, when I really think she is. So kind of weird to be saying this with then a five. Um, but like she's one that she reminds me a lot, honestly. She's a better version of Kayla from season 14 for me.
Mm.
Kayla was certainly much more boring than Rachel. Um, but Kayla was another one that just kind of like had a good eye for the game and was socially well positioned. And I do think that Rachel is a player that like will just with the experience of like having done this more and clearly knows how to win, will be able to take it up that notch when she needs to if she's still there by that point. So
Yeah, let's move on. Another green score coming. Ryan.
Hmm. Holy fuck balls. Ryan, I don't even know where to begin. I've gone on such a roller coaster of like, there's literally like I'm like my ranking for him this week is going to be like the percent sign. Because that's how like I don't know how to even talk about this move. I think I probably would have been really praising him had he gone the route of putting up Isaiah and Andrew, and then if that veto is won, which we know it would have been won by Zoe, then pulling her in, going to Rachel and Justin, trying to make this move happen, even if you don't have them all on board, at least they were clued in, take the shot, and then all of a sudden you have everyone on that other side really working with you too. I think that would have been far better than what he did, which was 5 minutes before the nomination ceremony, tell your whole alliance that they were all the targets and going up. That was crazy. That was crazy nutty. Um, I think we are leaving this week with Ryan being really enemy number one because I mean he made an enemy out of Justin, he made an enemy out of Rachel. Isaiah was already coming after him. We then also have like Trista, who Ryan is like, oh now I can like work with Trista. Trista still wants you out, babes. Um, you have Jen, who is working with him, but I don't know how much really true. Like I think Jen is doing whatever she can to get to the end here. Andrew, I think also doesn't trust Ryan. Like no one really trusts Ryan. Um, and this move, while the end goal of taking out Bryce could have been good for him, I don't hate that end goal if that's the route that he decided to go. But the path there was
I could.
fucking bonkers. Um, I'm deciding, figuring out how low I should move my score. We're certainly in the red. We are certainly not at a six. We are certainly not at a five. Can I justify being at a four? Quite honestly, I don't know. I think he's in a worse spot than Justin and Andrew.
Nah, I
So
still
I
my
think
charger.
I think I'm gonna go to a three for Ryan this week, which is just like, yeah,
Yeah,
this was nuts.
that's definitely where I'm going to. Um, because theoretically, the move to take out Bryce should have set him up better, and it simply did not. Um, so I agree with you that if he executed it correctly, it would have been a great move. I still think it would have been too early, but he could have done a better job, I think. Which reasonings, whatever. Um, I mean, like almost everybody now is looking at him as this person who has made an erratic move and cannot be trusted because of that. So I'm gonna be at three as well. I honestly don't know if he can come back from this.
I find it so funny that like this happened after everyone was like, Mohammed is gonna be this crazy player and we have to pick up Mohammed. Like, little
No,
did y'all know.
Muhammad was like, I don't know, who was someone crazy that they killed?
I,
Or
I
like,
don't know. I don't care.
wow. Now you're just being mean because I know you like Game of Thrones, and now you're just being mean.
Okay, okay. No, sure, let's talk about this. Muhammad
No,
was like
Krista.
Viserys.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too. Trista.
Okay. So when I say this about Trista, I don't mean it in the way that I mean it when I was saying it about Rachel, but I want Trista to win the game. I
Give
really
her a
do.
score.
Um, I mean, listen, in talking in actuality, here's honestly the really positive things I have to say about Trista. All of a sudden, everyone in the game is talking about how they need to work with Trista. I find this fact hilarious because you know what Trista doesn't want to do? Work with any of them. She is so over their bullshit at this point. And the amount of times this week, she had Ryan, Justin, and Bryce, her three biggest opponents, numbers one, two, and three on her hit list, all come to her, be like, "Hey, Trista,
You know who she
I
is.
know I put you up, but like I do think we could work together and all these things, and like, well, like, where's your head at in the game? Like, I really think we need each other right now." And Trista, and
Arya Stark never forgets.
this is honestly, um, you know what, this is fun. The honestly for Trista, like, what I think is just really earning her respect in the end, if she's there, is like she just says it how it is. No one is not knowing where Trista's head is at compared to like Adrian, where like they don't know what the fuck to do. Trista was like, "Yeah, Justin, like I'm not gonna lie, like you put me up, and you're working with all the people that put me up, and you would have been fine to send me home, and now you want to work with me. I will have to think about that when it comes to my decisions." And weirdly, I do think like all of the people that are coming to her need her. That like it's the combo of they need her and why would they take her out at this point? Where it's like I do think it is just like actually boosting her
I'm giving her a five.
perception in the game. I'm giving her a five too. I She's not on the in on either side, but both sides I do think need her. Neither side is going to put her up. And I do think that legitimately and not undeservedly, honestly, on a season like this, if she gets to the end, she beats half this cast right now, at least,
She's not on
just
either
on
side of the war
principle
right now. She's in the land of the faces or whatever it was.
in
She's in her
Bravos.
own world. Yeah, she's in her own world. And you know what? She's not going to get killed off because of that. Zoe is kind of like the what's his name? Littlefinger.
Yeah. um, Zoe, I mean, first and foremost, let's take a look at this. And this will show you where my head is at this season right now. I am very much a feminist, and I am team woman for the crown right now. Jen, Rachel, Trista so far being the only people not in the red, and Zoe will certainly continue that trend in a major way for me this week. Um, Kudos up and down to Zoe. I am honestly just really impressed where like Ryan came to her saying like, should we do this? She just kind of took it in. Do I think that Zoe would have done this on her own? No. Do I think she was going to stop Ryan from doing it? No. Um, she continued to play up with Rachel, Justin, and Bryce that she had no idea that this was happening, that still saving Rachel was the best move for their alliance because it was a chance. She was able to get in good with Jen. Ryan is like allowing her, she's like going to Ryan being like, okay, yeah, for the sake of our games, like I need to keep up with the facade with them. So just like, let me do that. And Ryan is like, great, I'm not going to say anything that you knew anything about this. And it's like, oh my God, we're just letting that happen. Um, she has just like really masterminded and really benefited from this whole thing. Do I think that it was a little too soon for Bryce to go for Zoe? Yeah, I do think that Bryce was really loyal to Zoe. At the same time, Ryan was kind of like, the train is on the tracks and it's rolling down, so get on board or move on. And Zoe was kind of really the epitome of like, okay, it's going here, so let me jump on board and take advantage of the situation as much as possible. She's easily the person that knows the most in the game right now about where the pieces lie, and that is powerful, and she's able to utilize that to her full force. Um, I honestly could have gone as high as a nine. I could have. The only reason I am certainly not doing that, and it's confidently not doing that, is the fact that towards the end of the week here, Bryce kind of caught on to the fact that like Zoe kind of might have known about this. There's really no reason. It'd be one thing if you were saving Justin, but you're saving Rachel, and you seem to just kind of be fine with that I'm going up and are voting me out. And he certainly spread that around. And I do think that people are looking at Zoe like a little bit of a side eye. Certainly not anything much. And I do think that she's still got a lot of people on hold and will be fine for a long while for her incredible gameplay this week, her great positioning, and only minor clockage in this major shitstorm of a week that this was. Zoe will be getting the first 8 of the season for me, and I hope to continue to see it soar higher.
I think if you asked me in the beginning to the middle of the week, I would have probably given her an 8. I just don't think coming out of this week, let me reiterate, I am very impressed with the way she has been able to, she was not taking the heat from this move, saying it wasn't her, maintaining relationships, using the veto, all amazing. I think by the end of the week, I think she has her hands in a lot of cookie jars, and people are now that Bryce knows he was spreading it around. I think we could see some toppleage soon from Zoe, and I think that was as a result of what I was praising her for in the beginning of the week. So I am trying to decide here.
The only reason I still went up to the 8, because I do agree with you here, but if I'm looking at the board, I'm kind of like, yes, Bryce said this, and he was right eventually, although I do think he was right for the wrong reasons. Bryce was essentially saying this because he was butthurt that Zoe didn't save him with the veto, because he said the same thing about Rachel, who actually was with him the whole time, after Rachel told him, yeah, I'm voting you out over Justin. The only like Bryce literally went into the jury and was like, I'm literally like, I'm not voting for Rachel. I'm not voting for Zoe. I'm not voting for Ryan. I'm not voting. I'm only voting for Justin or Isaiah or Trista. And it's like, okay, Bryce, take a seat. Um, and I don't think that Bryce got much headway into people, as in like Justin and Rachel still fully trust Zoe.
To be
Ryan
honest,
fully trusts Zoe. The
to
only
be
person that
honest,
honestly, well, I was gonna say, I think the only people that are really looking at Zoe moving forward are people that are looking at her as kind of like an inkling of maybe she can't be trusted, which I do think will grow if she doesn't play her cards right. But for right now, wasn't enough for me to not go up to the 8.
I honestly was deciding between a 6 or a 7. Looking more at what people were saying, I think a lot of it didn't come until today after the eviction last night. Um, so I will go with a 7 for her. I don't think she's in a solid enough position to get an 8 from me. I think totally justified from what you're saying, but I think this is going to be the next like week or two are really going to be make or break for her because I think she has a lot of things that she's trying to juggle right now, and people are and the numbers are getting smaller. There's only so many places that you can tell lies to without them spreading around. So I worry for her, but I do think like I she deserves commending for being able to get out Bryce without making enemies right now, at least. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's our week. If people don't want to know what's going on next week, feel free to jump off the rankings now. But just to, just because I think this is a slightly interesting conversation to like talk a little bit about. For me, the people that I've seen most talking about Zoe now that we've moved into the next week is Jen,
Mm,
who is, I think, saw on the front lines. Like she was the one that saw how in the middle Zoe was. Justin and Rachel, although I do think that they are closer with each other, and Zoe is kind of like on the outs of their group. Even they may even prioritize Isaiah more now. Now that like Bryce is gone, I think maybe their priorities have shifted. I don't think they distrust Zoe literally at all. Like I think they're like if they're I think their top four for them would be Justin, Rachel, Isaiah, Zoe, and I don't see that changing per se. Um,
I think if it were to
I
come out that she knew and was partially
oh for
responsible
sure,
for,
100%.
which
But
I
that's if
don't
it comes
think
out.
is, yeah, but I don't think that's like necessarily of like a hypothetical of like will it as opposed to like when will it?
That's all fair and true. And when that does happen, her score will tank. But until it does, I have no
Yeah,
proof to say that it will.
I kind of disagree with that, but okay. That's like saying
I
that's just like saying she's going to be evicted and being like, well, like some like I could you could say about anything. You can say about anything that will happen in the future. I don't know if it will
well,
happen.
I mean, exactly. That's what I say on all these rankings. I'm like absolutely. And kind of what happened to Bryce. Like in week two, we were saying like, oh, like someone could take him out, and like people are talking about it, and I'm like, yeah. And ultimately, that is what happened. And now our score is at a fucking two. But there was a world where like Ryan didn't make this move, and Bryce is still sitting pretty, and maybe he's in the end and he wins the game. And that's why like I'm not going to lower my score. I'm going to score in the moment. And in this moment, there is
Yes.
possibility that it tanks. I see the path
The
to the
flip side
season
is saying
where
that
Zoe tanks in 2 weeks. But I also see the path where she's able to pull it together. So in this present moment, I'm awarding where she is at right now, which for me, she ate.
okay. I think the flip side of that is saying like, well, we don't know Adrian isn't going to win the game, but I just gave him a two, you know? Like
Yeah, because I think Adrian has played like shit
based
the whole
on
time.
but I think based on Zoe's position, we disagree. We agree to disagree. Um, we'll see.
More to talk about soon. Next week is
Very
there is
soon.
one more.
Eviction before the
Yes,
double.
only one more person will be going home before the next rankings, but we've got a double eviction on the horizon. So this season is certainly ramping up. I mean, I know in the viewers world, it's like the season feels
Okay,
very
all
evenly
right.
paced,
You got 4 minutes until
but
the
it's
veto
ramping up.
competition. So let's
Okay.
um